breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Yeah, the feds raid MDC Brooklyn, and we're gonna see how Diddy was living. I'm gonna show you some videos so you see how the whole thing played out. Sit back and just remember that the main reason why we do this is not for views, it's not for none of this. I think my brother Murder Mook could say it even best. But this right now is about Diddy. So we're gonna play the Diddy joint. And you know, this is how he's living now. He went from all of that, so you could understand, to where he's at now. Let's start the intro. All right. You know what it is. I'm going to get right in it. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed at Mecca Audio TV. Let's get right into this and get this thing popping. This is what's going on in MDC. It's a, beautiful investigation from Black Hollywood classic Fire Joint. All right.
It looks like the federal authorities finally decided they'd had enough of the infamous Brooklyn jail's reputation, and they were ready to step things up. This time, the target was MDC Brooklyn, the very same cozy facility where rapper Sean Diddy Combs is currently serving time, thanks to those shocking charges against him. But if that scandal wasn't enough to raise eyebrows, Monday's surprise operation took the drama to another level, transforming this federal lockup into the scene of a real-life crime thriller. They even brought in a K-9 unit to make sure nothing suspicious slipped through the cracks. But what did those dogs actually uncover? And why has everyone been so furious about it? Let's find out the truth behind it. Currently housed at MDC are high-profile figures like John Combs and crypto mogul Sam Bankman-Fried. But this isn't the first time such famous names have passed through its gates.
Hey, y'all, don't they got them looking like villains? Like, like something out of a Batman movie. Look how they get the two of them looking. Like, what would their characters be? I'm like Diddy could be Batman right there. And what would the guy next to him be? Sam Bankman-Fried. What would he be? The Joker? Not disrespecting him. I'm just saying because I don't know. Y'all give me a name for Sam Bankman-Fried. Let's get this going. But don't they look like villains though from a comic book character?
The facility has also held infamous figures like R. Kelly, Michael Cohen, Fetty Wap, and even Martin Shkreli, the so-called Pharma Bro. Despite its notoriety, the jail is a place marked by constant violence, with numerous lockdowns and emergency counts. One visitor described how, time and again, they were turned away from visiting clients because of these unpredictable lockdowns. It's clear that MDC Brooklyn isn't exactly a model of stability. This recent operation wasn't your typical check-in with the inmates. It wasn't just the FBI. Everyone showed up. DEA, NYPD, and just about every other federal agency. Their official statement? There was no active threat. But really, would you deploy a full-scale task force, complete with substance-sniffing dogs, if everything was calm? It certainly doesn't add up. One former inmate, recalling a recent raid, described how agents discovered thousands of bottles of substances, including hard drugs like cocaine, ketamine, and GHB, all tied to the prison's black market. It seems the Bureau of Prisons tried to downplay the operation by claiming it was pre-planned, but it looked like the authorities were using it as a show of force, a reminder of who's in charge. Some may wonder if Diddy's presence at MDC Brooklyn is linked to the increased law enforcement activity. While official sources maintain there's no connection, it's hard to ignore the possibility that his high-profile case has played a role. After all, MDC Brooklyn has become somewhat notorious for housing celebrity inmates like Ghislaine Maxwell and Sam Bankman-Fried. It seems this federal lockup is turning into an unlikely gathering place for a very specific group of disgraced A-listers. Recently, MDC Brooklyn has faced significant criticism not for its celebrity clientele, but for the appalling conditions inside. Reports paint a grim picture of overcrowding, rats in the cells, and an understaffed workforce, creating an environment more reminiscent of a medieval dungeon than a modern correctional facility. In fact, the conditions have been so bad that some judges have outright refused to send detainees there. It's rather ironic that despite this, the Bureau of Prisons is now suddenly focused on maintaining a safe environment at the very facility that has earned such a notorious reputation. Diddy's legal team, which includes big names like Mark Agniff and Tiny Garagos, has been working hard to secure a transfer for him, hoping that New Jersey might offer a better standard of living in its jails. But for now, Diddy remains stuck at MDC Brooklyn, under what's being called a routine self-harm watch. Routine or not, it's hard to forget about Jeffrey Epstein, whose time in federal custody ended tragically, and under circumstances that still raise many questions. After all, no one involved in that scandal needs a reminder of what happened. Speaking of Epstein, the Manhattan federal jail where he was held, the one where the cameras conveniently malfunctioned and the guards fell asleep the night he died, is now temporarily out of service. Looks like one scandal was enough for them. So now it's MDC Brooklyn's turn to be under the microscope. With Diddy now in the spotlight, it's hard for the story not to write itself. Let's dive back into the recent raid, or more accurately, the interagency operation that unfolded at MDC Brooklyn. Defense attorneys are calling it a full-blown sweep, with agents going cell to cell as though searching for hidden treasures. Officially, it was described as a routine procedure, but anyone watching could see it was more than that. It felt like a display of power. Whether the agents were after drugs, weapons, or simply sending a message to Diddy and the others, it was clear that no matter their status, they were still just inmates in the eyes of the Bureau. The Bureau's vague language about achieving our shared goal of maintaining a safe environment almost seems absurd in the context of this operation. Given the dire conditions at MDC Brooklyn, it's clear that one interagency sweep won't be enough to make the facility even remotely safe, but at least they're making some effort, right? Meanwhile, Diddy continues to plead not guilty as the accusations keep stacking up in the form of civil lawsuits. It's a never-ending spiral. Headlines keep coming, and the situation grows more complicated with each passing day. Diddy's trial is set for next May, but in the meantime, he shares his space with the ghosts of other celebrities who've fallen from grace. The key difference now is that the spotlight no longer shines on him at a glamorous award show. Instead, it glares down on him in the cold, bleak halls of MDC Brooklyn. The situation at MDC Brooklyn has all the makings of a reality show, except no one's winning. With overcrowding, terrible conditions, and now federal raids, it's complete chaos. The Bureau of Prisons has already been embroiled in scandals, and this latest one only adds to the fire. Just last month, there were reports of inmates enduring lockdowns, power outages, and food so bad it could be called inhumane. It makes you wonder how anyone, celebrity or not, can leave that place with any sanity left. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team is working hard to get him out of the mess. They've tried every argument to have him transferred, saying that MDC Brooklyn is too dangerous, too chaotic, and too notorious. But the prosecutors aren't buying it. Their stance is clear. If it's good enough for other inmates, it's good enough for Combs. There's an unmistakable tone of, let him suffer like everyone else. It's almost ironic to see Diddy, once the king of New York, living in penthouses and flying on private jets, now facing the harsh reality of a federal holding cell. The money, fame, and entourage that once defined his world mean nothing behind bars. Perhaps that's exactly the point law enforcement is trying to make. No one is above the law. But it's worth noting that this same system has often turned a blind eye to Diddy's past actions when it suited them. Now, With the routine self-harm watch label slapped on his case, the plot of this strange and troubling saga thickens. The Bureau of Prisons claims it's standard procedure to closely monitor high-profile inmates, but it feels more like a PR move in the wake of the disaster with Epstein. No one wants to be the warden who allows another high-profile inmate to die on their watch. So now, Combs gets constant check-ins and extra surveillance, supposedly for his own safety. But it's hard to ignore the feeling that this heightened attention may be more about protecting the Bureau's reputation than genuinely caring for the well-being of the inmates. Then, there's the cast of notorious characters who've walked the halls of MDC Brooklyn before Combs. R. Kelly, facing his own serious charges, reportedly found the conditions unbearable. Then there's Ghislaine Maxwell, who, like Epstein, was at the center of one of the most infamous sex trafficking rings the world has ever seen. MDC Brooklyn seems to have become the default holding facility for people famous enough to make headlines, but dangerous enough to need extra security. It's almost as if the prison has developed a strange, dark celebrity status of its own. Picture a jail cell that's less about reform and more like a real-life horror show. And now, under the spotlight, there's Sean Diddy Combs, joining the parade of other notorious inmates, making this place even more infamous. Despite its reputation for housing high-profile inmates, MDC Brooklyn is more notorious for its harsh conditions than for the celebrities it holds. While events like the Met Gala offer a platform for stars to voice their concerns and bask in the spotlight, the reality for most prisoners is far less glamorous. They simply get swallowed by the system. Now, with Diddy's current legal troubles, the attention is back on MDC Brooklyn, shining a light on its grim reality. The facility, known for its rat-infested nightmare conditions, has earned a reputation that extends beyond its infamous residents. Legal teams have gone so far as to describe their clients as broken due to the harsh environment, a description that barely scratches the surface of what many endure behind its walls. This place is no stranger to horror stories. Take Ghislaine Maxwell, for example. The woman who was right by Jeffrey Epstein's side during some truly revolting activities. Her time at MDC gave everyone a first-hand glimpse into the awful conditions. Her defense team even went so far as to call the facility inhumane. If the accommodations were bad enough for Maxwell to speak out, it says a lot. Her complaints included poor lighting, no exercise, and a general lack of basic human rights. And while she was able to speak out, thousands of other inmates faced the same hell, but without the world watching. Jose Estrada allegedly threw the first punch, then tried to grab the officer's radio to prevent him from calling for help. Meanwhile, Sam Bankman-Fried, the crypto mogul, spent time here after his crypto empire collapsed in 2023. He had a front-row seat to the grime, the lack of medication, and, of course, the total lack of privacy. His lawyers made noise about the conditions, but it was like shouting into a hurricane. MDC isn't just a detention center, it's a place that drags everyone down to the same miserable level. R. Kelly, the R&B superstar turned convicted criminal, also spent time at MDC. His lawyers immediately called out the place for its lack of health care and the complete disregard for mental health. While Kelly's story made headlines, the truth is, these inadequate healthcare conditions are a daily reality for countless other inmates, just without the fame and media coverage. Then there's Michael Cohen, Trump's former fixer, who spent time at MDC trying to survive rat infestations and the constant fear that the lack of hygiene would claim his life before anything else. His testimony shocked the public, but for those who'd been trapped at MDC for longer, the horrors were no surprise. Cohen's insider accounts confirmed what everyone knew. MDC is as close to a dystopian nightmare as it gets. Allison Mack, the former Smallville actress who became a lieutenant in the NXIVM cult, described her time at MDC as a near-death experience, with isolation and poor nutrition pushing her to the brink. Her fall from TV star to inmate made great headlines, But her suffering was no different from what countless others experience at MDC. It's a slow, quiet collapse that no one really cares to witness. Then there's Martin Shkreli, the infamous villain of overpriced medications. He thought that money and status would make his time in 1650 easier. Spoiler alert, it didn't. He faced the same deplorable conditions, non-existent health care, and much more suffering than he probably imagined from his cushy Wall Street office. Tekashi 6ix9ine, the rapper, thought his stint at MDC would add some street cred to his career. Instead, he found out that MDC isn't just a place with bars, it's a cage with no safety. His lawyers fought for his release, citing violence and lack of protection, issues that are a daily terror for most inmates without the backup of a legal team and money. The former president of Honduras, now on trial for drug trafficking, found himself incarcerated at MDC. His legal team quickly raised concerns about the lack of medical care and the rampant violence, but sadly their complaints were hardly shocking. At 1600, it doesn't matter whether you're a former world leader or a notorious gangster. Everyone is treated the same. For every headline-grabbing celebrity, there are thousands of others whose names will never be known. MDC isn't a place of rehabilitation. It's a facility designed to break people down. Violence is a daily reality. Medical care is virtually non-existent, and the staff, overworked and underpaid, are hardly motivated to offer any real help. Remember that infamous winter power outage in 2019? Inmates were left freezing in the dark for days. High-profile cases may draw attention, but behind the temporary media flashes, it's just pure neglect. The MDC story isn't just about celebrities in jail. It's a harsh reflection of the systemic failures that run deep within federal prisons. Federal judges have even called this place barbaric, and they're not wrong. Sure, celebrities like Diddy get lawyers shouting and cameras rolling, but that doesn't change the daily nightmare for those without the same influence. For the average inmate, life at MDC means navigating constant violence, trying to stay healthy in a place where healthcare is a myth, and holding on to any shred of hope when every system is designed to make you fail. It's a hopeless grind, served daily. The media might catch a glimpse of the horrors when someone high-profile like Ghislaine Maxwell or Diddy walks through the doors, but once those cameras leave, the story fades back into business as usual. And what is that business? A slow, relentless crushing of human spirits. Take the Segregation Intake 4 unit, for instance. This is where the most dangerous and high-profile inmates are housed, those in maximum security segregation. Behind these locked doors are individuals like Christopher Cook, who is charged with attempted murder after allegedly shooting an Albuquerque police officer during a traffic stop. While Diddy may be the focus today, tomorrow it could be someone else. But the real story here isn't about the celebrities making headlines. It's about the facility itself, a place designed to hold people but in many ways ends up breaking them down. Though high-profile stories like this grab attention, the harsh reality is undeniable. MDC Brooklyn is a broken part of a much larger, dysfunctional system. It's not simply a matter of bad luck for the inmates. It's a symptom of a systemic failure. If true change is ever going to happen, it won't come from celebrity scandals. It will come when we stop focusing on the next big headline and start addressing the deeper issues. The cruel and decaying system that continues to persist because too many choose to ignore it. It's impossible to overlook how the Bureau of Prisons seems to tighten the screws whenever the media shines a light on them. It's almost as if they're more concerned with giving the appearance of action rather than addressing the root causes. And the root causes are numerous: understaffing, corruption, poor oversight, and a culture of neglect. Sending in the FBI, DEA, and NYPD might make for sensational headlines, but it doesn't change the fact that MDC Brooklyn has been broken for years. For inmates, operations like these are more than just an inconvenience. Imagine being jolted awake at dawn by a team of federal agents. Your cell is tossed, your belongings searched, all while knowing that whatever they're looking for likely isn't there. It's an exercise in power, a reminder that the authorities control everything, and the inmates are nothing more than pawns in a much bigger game. The tension, the fear, the uncertainty, it's all part of the psychological toll that comes with life at MDC Brooklyn. Diddy's legal team is probably strategizing their next move right now. Maybe they'll ask for a transfer or push to bring more attention to the conditions inside. But the reality is, they're facing a system that has shown it doesn't bend easily, especially when it wants to make an example of someone. And with Diddy being such a high-profile case, it's likely that authorities will continue playing hardball. After all, nothing screams tough on crime like a celebrity being brought to their knees by the justice system. Then there's the question of why this raid happened now. Was it really just routine, or was there something more behind it? Maybe a tip-off or a rumor, or perhaps it was just the Bureau's way of reminding everyone that they have the power to make life even harder for the inmates whenever they choose. The timing is interesting considering the media frenzy surrounding Diddy's case, with new accusers coming forward and a trial date fast approaching. It feels almost like a calculated move, showing the public that no one, not even a high-profile inmate like Diddy, is receiving special treatment. The agents who arrived for this operation weren't there to put on a show. They came prepared, fully equipped, spending hours combing through the facility, dogs sniffing around, agents in tactical gear. It was a full-on spectacle. While the Bureau of Prisons might claim it was all for safety, it's hard to ignore the optics. They wanted to be seen taking action, trying to prove that MDC Brooklyn isn't the disaster everyone knows it is. But no number of drug-sniffing dogs can hide the fact that this facility has serious, deep-rooted problems that one raid won't solve. And what about Diddy? Sitting in that cell, watching as agents swarm the place. What must be going through his mind? The man who once had it all, now reduced to this. There's something almost poetic about it. Yet it's also a stark reminder of how quickly life can change. One moment, you're on top of the world, living your best life. The next, you're just another inmate in a system that devours people and spits them out. Even though the agents may not have found what they were looking for, the message was clear. Combs no longer holds the power. He no longer calls the shots. His influence is slipping away, and this story is far from over. With his trial scheduled for next year and more accusers coming forward, the focus on Combs and MDC Brooklyn will only intensify. The Bureau of Prisons will continue scrambling to manage the chaos, the legal teams will keep strategizing, and the media will be there every step of the way, cameras rolling. Meanwhile, the inmates, celebrities and unknowns alike, will keep enduring the grim reality of a place built to break them down. It's a story of power, corruption, and fallen stars in a system that seems to thrive on chaos. One can't help but wonder, will all this attention finally spark some real change? Will the public outcry over conditions at MDC Brooklyn lead to reform? Or will it all fade away as soon as the headlines move on to the next scandal? History suggests the latter. The names and charges may change, but the conditions remain the same. The federal system is a slow-moving beast, if it moves at all, and for the inmates at MDC Brooklyn, that means the nightmare continues, with or without the occasional high-profile raid. As for Diddy, his legal team is doing everything they can to get him out. Their latest move? A $50 million bail package. They offered to outfit him with a shiny GPS tracker and confine him to his Miami mansion, with strict conditions. No internet, no cell phones, and no visitors outside of close family or legal representatives. They even promised weekly drug tests and a daily log of who he's meeting. Essentially, it would be like a real-life Truman Show, but all for the court's peace of mind. Judge Tarnavsky, however, wasn't convinced by the arguments presented. She pointed to Diddy's temper and his history of excessive partying as factors that raised concerns about his behavior and whether he would be a responsible neighbor. Despite having a team of high-powered lawyers and visible support from his family, the judge remained unmoved. She made it clear by denying Diddy's bail request, keeping him in custody for the time being. Tarnavsky's decision sent a strong message. No amount of money could outweigh her serious reservations about him. Meanwhile, other judges have also voiced their concerns. They've pressed the Bureau of Prisons for updates on the situation and have called on the agency to address the ongoing issues at the facility. In fact, one judge even refused to send certain defendants to MDC Brooklyn because of the harsh conditions there. Diddy is just one of around 12,200 inmates at MDC Brooklyn, the highest-profile detainee at a facility that's been described as hell on earth. So what's life really like for him behind bars? Let's just say it's no luxury retreat. Diddy isn't lounging by a pool, he's stuck in a place that's more dungeon than resort. MDC Brooklyn has been plagued by overcrowding, safety issues, and even deaths among detainees. It's certainly not the kind of place someone accustomed to marble floors and fine dining would want to end up. Diddy's legal team argues that keeping him in such harsh conditions is unfair, especially since he has no criminal record. But he's not alone in facing the grim reality of life at MDC Brooklyn. Notable figures like Ghislaine Maxwell, R. Kelly, and Michael Cohen have all served time here, and each of them had plenty to say about the food, lack of sleep, and the steel beds that leave your back aching. Diddy's finding it hard to adjust to this environment. The man who's used to a life of luxury is now dealing with a reality that is far from glamorous. His team argues that his current situation is taking a toll on his health and making it even harder for him to prepare his defense. Throughout all of this, Diddy's family has remained by his side. They've attended every hearing, watching as he walks into the courtroom, clad in his signature orange jumpsuit. His sons, Quincy, Justin, and King Combs, have been there too, doing their best to stay composed under the bright glare of the cameras. Their presence speaks volumes. They're not just showing up for the cameras. They're there out of a deep hope that somehow, despite the chaos, things won't spiral further. They're holding on to the hope of a resolution, praying it doesn't escalate into something even worse. However, the public's intense focus on the case only complicates matters. Diddy is used to living in luxury, but this situation is far from what he's accustomed to. It seems that Diddy's defense team is doing everything they can to play up the family man angle, trying to portray him as a devoted father who poses no threat. They hope this will help soften the public perception of him as a loving dad, countering the image painted by the prosecution, which portrays him as a dangerous figure. Even after the latest denial of bail, Diddy's lawyers aren't backing down. Mark Agnifilo, the lead attorney, is sticking to his position. He insists that the case rests on flimsy accusations, overhyped with too little substance. His argument is that Diddy turned himself in voluntarily, proving that he's not trying to evade the law. But the judge remains unconvinced. Even with the promises of house arrest, GPS tracking, and daily logs, she's still saying no. The prosecution has made a strong case, convincing the court that releasing Diddy could do more harm than good. This isn't just about Diddy's freedom. It's about his image, his empire, and his legacy. For decades, Diddy has been a powerhouse in music and entertainment, but now everything is at risk. His brand, once polished and influential, is looking tarnished. The support from those who once had his back seems to be fading. Unlike in the past, where industry giants would rally around him in tough times, today it's hard to find many big names publicly supporting him. And what about his business ventures? The music label? The fashion lines? Those are in jeopardy as well. If his legal troubles continue to worsen, his brand could take a major hit. The accusations against him are also sparking broader discussions within the entertainment industry, forcing people to reconsider how they view these powerful figures. There's growing concern about whether they are truly held accountable when allegations like these arise. The conversation, at least for now, isn't in Diddy's favor. The next few months are going to be crucial. Diddy's legal team is preparing for a long battle, but right now, without bail, he's stuck facing the harsh reality of life in detention. He'll have to rely on his family and defense team as he navigates a media frenzy that seems to feed off every twist and turn in his case. Whether he walks free or faces harsher consequences, this case is shaping up to be a long and unpredictable journey.
All right, so that's where we at, right? I wanted to show y'all that video, and I wanted to watch that with you so you could see that these are the conditions that our brothers and sisters are living under in these prisons. And that's why we have to deter our youth, the younger generation, from getting away from the hype that it's cool to go to prison. It's not cool to go to prison, and it's hard doing time in prison. Could you imagine laying in the bed smelling another human being's farts all night? Could you imagine having to use the bathroom and put a sheet up in between you to block them in a little 2x4 cell because you want the privacy of sitting down, using the bathroom? If that's how you want to live, feel free to go do what you need to do. They showing you that even the richest and biggest of the big is not above the law and can wind up in the prison. So if you don't understand it, I don't know what to tell you. I'm doing the best I can to try and bring you all these jewels because I made a promise to God that if he got me out of prison, I would try and save our babies. I'm doing the best I can. I'm one man. My number come on the screen. Cash App come on the screen. If, you feel, generous, want to donate, and thank you all for the Cash Apps. That's how I was able to make this studio, to do all the effects and everything. And, I just want to give you all the best to try and improve, to do what we need to do as a society to come together, because prison is not nice, man. I did 26 and a half years there, and I'm telling you, I don't wish that on my worst enemy, not even the man that told on me, that got me life plus 20. I'm not even mad at him. All right? Make sure you go subscribe at Mecca Audio TV. Hit the notification bell and do the same thing over here at Unique Mecca Audio. All right?
Cheers, cheers, toast the crime, toast the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.
Fresh out the can of 26, he back on the strip, getting back in the mix. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. The Instagram page and the YouTube, you could go and visit. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, Mecca Audio. Get it live like 2 G's in the 90s. Drop top beamer so shiny. I let shorty go, she was whining. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spend a couple bands on the Dapper Dan. You be back again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a roaring uptown. They be horn uptown, Dominican bust downs. Now we on the positive, we got a lot to give. Now he trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take heed, homie, lend a ear. He started in uptown, he gon' finish dead. But now it ain't about selling drugs, buying cars. It's about buying property to make the community yours, so we can give back to the.
Cheers, cheers, toast the crime, the crime, the crime.